Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show here on Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. And we come to you at 8 p.m. every single Tuesday evening, even during Christmas and New Year. We even do a recorded show that goes out for you guys. So look, we are here. It's 52 weeks a year for you, talking about all the hot topics in rugby, obviously with a New Zealand slant. Joining me to go through some of that stuff, I've got Ashwin. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. I was just doing some invoicing while we're waiting to come on here. Got to use your time wisely.
Not for New Zealand Sport Radio, unfortunately. He's
no.
not the accounting admin for the organisation.
But if somebody would like us to send an invoice to them, I'm happy to create one and send it out to them so that we have some funds.
Well, yeah, that'd be nice. On that note, I am going to actually have to create an invoice for somebody because I'm going to help them do a promotional video. So there you go.
Nice.
Where I get to I'll probably be using one of these. How are you doing, sir?
The new gear.
The new gear, yes. Also joining us, we have Mr. Harris. How are you doing, sir?
Very good, thank you, Paul. Always a privilege and a pleasure to be on the TDM.
Great to have you here, sir. And so first up, actually, before we go any further, thank you very much to supporters of New Zealand Sport Radio. They've let me, through their support, I've been able to have the funds to buy this extra new kit, even if I do have to buy a couple of more cables to make it all work. And also, as my iPhone was giving out and the camera kept freezing during interviews, which is not very clever, they've also let me get one of these iPhone things as well. So thank you very much to supporters. So it does mean the absolute world to me, and you do keep us going, because without you, the tech that we use for this just would not be possible. So thank you. Thank you everyone who's in the live chat. Hey, Nocturnal Rights, how you doing there, sir? And good evening, Simon, as well. Everyone else in the live chat, there's no way, let us say hello, and also where you're from as well. It'd be interesting to see where around the country we have people. So some of the topics this evening, fellas, is Ashwin wanted to have a chat about the dominance of the Crusaders and whether that's good or bad for the sport. He also wanted to talk about Silver Lake. I'm not quite sure what. We've covered that the last couple of weeks, so I don't know what his unique take is going to be.
I just threw it out there, man. I just threw it out there.
Just threw it out there, dear me. Obviously, we had a couple of golden points at the weekend, so we'll have a chat about that, and we'll also get the Chiefs' view from their stand-up from today. So we'll play you that section from their interviews, and perhaps also have a quick chat about the Captain's Challenge and a few other bits around the new laws as well. But before we get all into that, let's have a chat about the news, or let's go through some of the news items that's been going on first. Artie Surveyor apparently did his MCL during the game, which is why he was hobbling around. So he's out for 6 to 8 weeks, unfortunately. So everyone who was kind of like, wow, slot him in quick. He can be the new Sam Cane. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe he'll be. Depending on how quickly we get around to test matches and whether he's back in time.
So the fact that he was going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, he might have just battled on for another 20 minutes and helped them win the game.
Well, my argument then is, what other damage could he have done to himself? What risk was he putting himself into? But we discussed that one on Sunday night, didn't we?
Yeah, but then we can go into in-depth detail here, and it's just like, well, he had a bad injury. He's going to be out for 8 weeks. What's another couple on that? What was he going to come back for NPC? Nah.
What's another couple of that? Someone who won't be coming back for NPC is Tom Christie, who is out for a year. So he's gone. We still don't know how long Joe Moody or Jack Goodhue will be out for, but since one of them was in a moon boot and the other one couldn't even walk.
You got the right Goodhue.
I did?
You did.
Has he got a brother or something? I don't know.
He got the right Goodhue.
So those two are out as well. There. Nocturnal Right says, is it me or are players getting bad injuries more often at the moment? Boys, what do you think?
Oh, I don't think it's any different to normal, tell you the truth. I think if you go back the previous seasons, bad injuries have happened. I mean, the fact is, it's just the intensity in in Super Rugby, particularly in the local derbies, is just immense.
I also would add we're probably just getting a spate of high-profile injuries as well, and I think it's probably being highlighted a little bit more. Where if you think back to the past, I can almost think at times where the Chiefs and the Blues had really long injury lists at the time, but definitely not the same sort of high-profile guys we are seeing at the minute. And that's all it comes down to. Hey, it's rugby. It happens.
Yep, and I totally agree with Stephen there. It's just the fact is that it's the roll of the dice a little bit in terms of who gets injured and in the past it's probably been lower profile players, and so we haven't really noticed as much. And we've just this week in particular 3 All Blacks.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And well, on top of Sam Cane, who was already out as well. So it's you say lots of high-profile players getting injured at the moment. Also, from the Crusaders side of things, Michael Alatoa will be leaving the Crusaders at the end of the season. He is off to Leinster Rugby, so clearly he wants more trophies. He'll definitely be picking up some Pro 14 or Pro 16 or whatever it's called trophies, but may also pick up some European Champions Cups at the same time while he's over there. Bit of a shame, as some people said, that he was exactly the kind of player that Manu Pacifica could have done with.
Can't afford.
But well, is it can't afford, or is it more that, or is it just that they haven't got that, aren't organised enough and can't actually give someone a contract?
Well, if he's going to be on a pretty decent wicket at the Crusaders, and so effectively the dollars are going to be equivalent in and around any team in Super Rugby, in terms of what he's getting at the moment, not going to compete with the Leinster.
Yeah, and let's not forget their agents, they're out there sort of scouting the best deal that they can find, and it's obviously a very good deal. We know how much that some of the Northern Hemisphere clubs pay, and I would imagine it's probably 2 or 3 times what he's actually making with the Crusaders or a New Zealand Rugby Football Union contract. So, and he's probably thinking, well, you know what, I've won. How long has he been with the Crusaders now? He's probably been part of this team.
Well, he picked up the 3, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he's picked up the 3. Is there anything else that he really needs to do apart from has he been a part of the All Blacks as well? No.
Well, no, because he's a Samoan international.
He's a Samoan international. Well, there you go. Listen, he's probably just looked at the financial side of it, and good opportunity. And the good thing about it, he does get to represent Samoa as well.
And the thing is that his earning potential in New Zealand will be capped because he's not able to be an All Black.
Yeah,
absolutely, I understand that. But what I'm saying is that he might have preferred to have stayed here on a slightly lower salary, maybe, and he would be the perfect kind of signing for Manu Pacifica. No, I'm Pacifica. Sorry. You're shaking your head. And he might not want to go to Ireland. Ireland might. Look, they've got all sorts of COVID issues.
I think we get a bit romantic on the whole notion that every Ireland player, or any links with Ireland, the islands, not Ireland, but the islands, wants to go and play for a Pacific-based team. Nah, look, at the end of the day, the first and most imperative objective for them is to earn the dollars when they can. And then once they've earned the dollars and got themselves the proper big nest egg that they believe that they're going to require, then they may look at the romanticizing of playing for a Pacific Island side.
Yeah. Case in point, Charles Piato, Malakai Fekitoa,
Stephen Luatua,
Seta Tamani Valu. These guys are all making noises that they'd like to represent their respective countries. It'd be great to see, but I guess we'll have to wait and see how that plays out.
As I said, once they've feathered the nest, then they may look at it. But until they've feathered their nest, what's the first thing we talked about tonight's show? Injuries. You're going to risk playing for a lower salary on the risk that you could have a career-ending injury, and then those dollars are gone.
Actually,
Look at Michael Fatialofa.
Some players don't want to go overseas, but have no choice. So I'm not saying every single player will want to stay here.
No, Paul, don't get us wrong. Don't get us wrong. The fact is that when the names that we've just mentioned, Charles Piutau, Stephen Luatuas, Tamanu Valu, Fekitoa, none of those players want to go play in Europe. They'd rather play here. I think 99% of the players would rather play here. Why do they go over there? It's the dollars.
See, guys, I was about to say, I don't even know if the next generation of Pacific Island players that are coming through who will get to represent Mana Pacifica at the end of the day will still want to play Super Rugby moving forward, because if the opportunities come for the bigger money overseas, they're going to go.
Yep.
There is that. There is a possibility. I mean, some will, some won't. I mean, you look at the players like Matt Todd. I mean, he didn't go for a long time. Only went at the very, very end of his career. So some players will, some players won't.
I think you have to. There's a different blood that goes through those born and bred players out of Christchurch. You had. Oh, look, we've talked about this before. You had a Tyler Bloodendale, you had a Tom Taylor, and Colin Slade. Guys that would sit behind a DC at the Crusaders rather than go play for the, people are going to laugh at the Blues because Blues didn't have the first five. Tom Taylor could have made a massive case of playing for the All Blacks or more time in a black jersey if he'd come and play for the Blues. His old man said, no way in hell that son of mine's playing for an Auckland team. Simple as that. So there's a different culture around that. Absolutely,
Tom did go overseas, but Colin Slade.
But he wasn't going to play. Wasn't going to play for a team full of Jaffers that might have got him an All Blacks jersey or more of an All Blacks jersey. Yeah.
Guys, it does throw out a couple of interesting questions in and around the Crusaders. We've always known that they've had a decent battery of props in their stable, and with Alatoa moving on, the injury to Joe Moody, and let's face it, he'll probably come into that category, maybe not immediately, whether he hangs around for the next World Cup or goes on a sabbatical. Boy, they all of a sudden they're starting to lose these quality props, and you sort of start to look at the next tier, which is George Bauer, Ollie Jaeger. Then you go to Fletcher Newell. Then you're starting to. Not, I wouldn't say scratch the barrel, because I don't know what's coming through in that Christchurch region or in fact the
Christchurch region, the New Zealand region, Steve.
The Crusaders region. Oh yeah, but you know what?
Christchurch region, and also Tasman.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold that against them. They're great at spotting
talent.
And boy, they still produce, as shown by their under-20s that started the under-20s super tournament down in Taupo the weekend. Once again, another case of the Blues looking the more talented and bigger and physical side, but once again, you saw
no
the
cohesion.
Team plays with a lot of smarts. They will still keep producing those players, but nothing like having a good, stable front row.
No, look, I mean, one of the things that, I've been thinking for a while, they've been talking up the old George Bauer and Ollie Jaeger, but to me, they're good props, top quality props, but they're not any more top quality than what's running around in other Super Rugby teams at the moment. Not like, if we go back, when you had your Moody's, and your Crockett's, because you got to remember in the last few years, they've lost to Crockett as well. And then when you had those who were All Black level and that little bit more, right? And and that the Jaegers and the Bowers aren't that little bit more. What they're getting at the moment, and why they're still getting a little bit of scrum dominance, is their second row is massively powerful in Sam Whitelock and Scott Barrett. That's a massive engine room that pushes that front three forward.
Yeah, and not to mention, guys like Dun Shea and the big tall lock from Tasman that just escapes me.
Quinton Strange.
Quinton Strange.
Quinton Strange as well. But we also shouldn't forget they have got a couple of young props in Fletcher Newell, only 21, highly rated tight head, loose head prop, beg your pardon, and also Tamaiti Williams, ex-Whangarei boys, who's a mountain of a man at 135 kgs, 6'4". So they have got some young guys, but are they? Yeah, but are they ready to step up to that super rugby level? And I'm predicting they may have a few issues moving forward. Not imminently, but a little bit further on.
I think, and that's what I'm thinking.
Issa Tuangafasi as well.
Oh, yes, Issa Tuangafasi, yeah.
But I'm sort of thinking that second row will be around. I mean, Whitelock's going to be there for a little bit longer, and your Barrett's going to be there, and the players that you mentioned as well in terms of your Dunshays and your Strangers. And they will help paper those cracks a little bit because, as I said, they have a phenomenally strong second row.
I know Paul probably doesn't want to spend too much more time on this, but I've heard from a very, very good source that they were gutted to lose Sam Derry because they see him as a Whitelock, a cross between a Whitelock and a Brodie Retallick type player. I know this young guy's taken a little bit of criticism from a few corners, but man, he's only a very, very young guy, and I think that maybe one that got away from the Crusaders.
What's the criticism he got? What, you mean from the one game that he played?
Oh, yeah, people on different various.
I thought for a first up game for playing like, was he 21? I think.
Yeah.
Playing as a 21-year-old in a forward pack against a Crusade, or at Super Rugby level, is a little bit different to being a 21-year-old playing in the back line, I reckon. You're playing against real men in the forwards, and you're just a young kid. You're just a young man. So I think it's a different, to basically acquit yourself of just getting through the game and not making too many errors and getting your job done is big ticks to my mind.
Yep. So that's your kind of injury and transfer news that I've got. Also in the news, the Rainbow Cup, which is the next tournament where the South African Super Rugby franchises will be joining in the Pro 14 European franchises, and because clearly down in South Africa with the Super Rugby Reloaded, I think it was called, followed by the Currie Cup, followed by the Franchise Preparation Series, which basically had all the same teams in. So they're going to kick off the Rainbow Cup with 3 rounds of derbies. So basically, the Currie Cup for the 4th time in this season is going to go ahead. Before potentially, well, there's talk about whether it's on or off, depending on who you listen to, as well. So keep your eyes open, folks. Yeah, at the moment it's yes, no. The Rainbow Cup has to go ahead for the Pro 14 because the TV rights basically rely on them having a games between South African teams and non-South African teams, and if they don't have that, they don't get the TV money. Now, the British government is saying no, they can't come in without quarantining. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all works out. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I can't disagree with the British government on this one. I mean, has South Africa got COVID under control? And the answer to that is obviously no. So to allow any citizens from South Africa to just directly come in and play their game and then fly back out again, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, no, the idea was they would go up to Europe, to go up to the UK and bubble in Bristol, apparently.
Right, sure. And then stay there, get the games played, and then,
Yeah. Now, the fact they're playing sides from Ireland, Wales, Scotland, and Italy, and they're going to bubble in England, it's been interesting. But there you go. Who am I to say around that kind of stuff? Simon says, look, there's going to be announcements Friday, Saturday. Look, there's always going to be announcements each week, and you can announce whatever you like until they actually get in the country and don't get quarantined. You never know.
And let's face it, we're looking pretty positive for the Trans-Tasman Super Rugby competition here locally to go ahead, and that's quite exciting after watching pretty repetitive rugby for ours getting to us now. But at the end of the day, COVID could rear its head somewhere. There's a lockdown happens there, and that tournament's over, before it started. So you just don't know until it gets, as you say, until there's a ball that's kicked off in the middle of the park from halfway, nothing started.
And yes, and when you consider that we had boxing matches going into lockdown, so people saying, "Hey, that should stop halfway through the boxing match." You may kicking off isn't necessarily even a certainty you're going to get the game done.
Just saw a comment there. I don't know whether it was from Nocturnal Rights. Just with regards to Sam Derry being impotent last year. Listen, he was for Canterbury. He was 19. He was 19 years old. Shouldn't forget that. Just an absolute kid. I think probably a good off season, and you can guarantee he's probably been in the gym as well. Listen, this is his first season. I think probably, like anything, I'm quite prepared to give him a couple of seasons and then judge on him. I can think back to somebody like Ofa Tuangawhasi, who basically came into the Blues with a huge reputation as a 19-year-old, and I thought of the folly at the time of why they actually selected him. But it took Ofa probably 3 or 4 seasons, especially to get his scrummaging right. But boy, once he got it right, we started to see that potential.
What about Jerome Kino? He's another one. I mean, especially that he came in, had a pretty good first season, but then, he didn't get picked for the All Blacks, and it took him a few years to find his feet. I mean, obviously, once he found his feet, it was just phenomenal. But geez, it did take a few seasons.
Jeepers, at 19 years old, I didn't know which lunch bar to go and buy my pie at in the middle of the day, for crying out loud. So, seriously?
I was going down to the Oxy.
Yeah. I mean, Kiri Wani is another one, isn't he? Came in and it's taken him. It took him 2 or 3 seasons to figure it out as well. So yes, and again, Rico comes in, knocks it out the park. But he's a back. Akiri Wani, we're talking about in the forwards here. And as you were saying earlier, Oscar, all those examples you were giving were all forwards that take a few seasons to get used to it and to step up. So yeah.
Paul, it's quite an interesting one. I know it's not on the agenda, but there was an interesting piece there from Chris Ratui, who basically has come out and said, "Listen, we're all the rock stars coming through at the minute." And it did make me think that maybe there's a core of guys, your Whakatavas, your Darries, your Peter Umaga Jensens, guys like that who are almost set to explode, if you know what I mean. I just think in terms of their own, probably for a lot of guys, in terms of last, if you think back how broken Super Rugby was, it basically, I think it probably killed a lot of development time for a lot of these younger guys.
But you mentioned the under-20s tournament, Steve, and I watched a bit of that, what I could, and whilst the commentators were trying to talk up the players, there wasn't actually any standouts from the periods of rugby that I watched, and as I said, I didn't get to watch all of it. I watched as much as I could, and I watched a decent amount of it. There wasn't anybody that was like, "Oh wow, can't wait to see him in a full Super Rugby jersey." Nothing. As I said, commentators were talking up the players. That's all they were doing though, because they weren't delivering.
We actually, Paul, both Ashwin and I need to be drug tested, because at the moment we're actually agreeing with both Chris Ratui and dare I say it, Mark.
What are you reading?
No, rewind. You just said Chris Ratui is saying, "Where are the superstars?" I'm saying I can see them. They're there. I totally disagree. I think Whakatava has been a superstar this season. He's gone and got injured though. I think we can see.
I was more referring to that under-20s level, but yeah.
I think where he's coming from is, where's the player that's really lighting it up
Super
Rugby. I think that's what what he's basically saying is, if you sort of look around, and there's some players that are really, really impressing me and playing well, that call me a little bit biased, but I know he's probably looking at the number 1 pick for the number 7 jersey. But I love the way Dalton Papali'i is playing at the minute. Okay, he was out for a couple of games, but to me, some of the performances that he's put in have just been, top drawers as far as I'm concerned. And then I kind of look around and I start scratching. Of course, there was Fakatava. I mean, to say good enough to keep Aaron Smith out of the team. But after that, I'm scratching around a bit, to be brutally honest.
I think Luke Jacobson's settling in very well at number 8 for the Chiefs. Has been doing good as coming through. I guess your Will Jordan's just coming back from injury, but as is Bridge as well. Those two, so they've not really, haven't had the opportunity to. I guess I think there's a lot of kind of injuries for playing. Dave McKenzie's coming back into some form as well. I don't think it's as barren as you're perhaps suggesting.
Yeah, it made me think it's not as radical as normal articles, if you know what I mean. But it was one that was I actually thought it was thought provoking.
And I mean, long term, maybe it's also down to systems. The fact that you just don't. Most sides don't score from the other half anymore. The defensive systems are kind of stronger nowadays, or perhaps the attacking systems are becoming too robotic, as Wayne Smith was suggesting as well.
Although I was going to say Paul Williams has been a standout.
Oh dear, we're going to go there, aren't we? At some point. But Ashwin, something that you said, you promised the audience on Sunday night that we would talk about this, so we better do, and you can lead us off around the how is it bad for rugby to have a dominant team like the Crusaders?
Oh, look, I mean, I was just sort of thinking. I mean, it's if we hadn't have had the Highlanders upsetting the Crusaders at home, and then the Canes basically running them really close, and I honestly believe if Artie had stayed on that field, that they would have got the job done. But it's sort of it makes it more interesting. Let's face it. Otherwise, if the Highlanders hadn't have beaten the Crusaders, we were just watching a procession, weren't we? And do we switch on for a procession? Are we going to be? How many people are you going to get sitting down in front of a TV watching a procession? Whereas actually, we don't know what the outcome of this game is going to be, particularly if you're neutrals. Especially when you got the kids yelling at you to take you out, your wife saying we've got to go shopping to the mall again. So are you going to sit down and watch a game if you know what the result's going to be?
Well, I think so. The counter argument is that Tiger Woods, when he was dominant in golf, he drove up the level of interest in golf. So having someone or having a team that is sparkling and put on a fantastic show is not necessarily a bad thing.
Is it happening?
Well, it's not, no. But what? Okay, so why is it not happening?
Oh, look, I think it's an interesting one because you analyze it. I think the Tiger Woods one's probably a bad example to use, simply because with Tiger Woods when he came onto the scene and the way that he played, it was just exciting to watch. What was he going to do next, right? And to be fair, Crusaders, when you go back when they start, winning, it is like, oh, what is Will Jordan going to do next? Let's say, type thing. So you will watch it to see what are they going to pull out of the bag next. But I think a better example would be you look at the Bulls with, when they had Jordan and their success for so many years, and people didn't get bored of watching the Bulls win, did they? And that might be a better example because it's a team sport versus a team sport. Why didn't people get bored of watching the Bulls win? But even the Crusaders fans getting bored of watching the Crusaders win, because that game against the Highlanders, for example, how many people turned up to watch that game at the stadium? And it was was that an afternoon game, I think? Or was that an evening game?
And I think the answer here is around personalities, isn't it? Look, the people turn up to watch
Marketing.
Marketing, yeah, and it is that solely is that the marketing. Again, they were watching Michael Jordan about him being the greatest of all time was kind of part of that discussion. You don't look at that Crusaders team and go, would any of those players make it into an all-time 15? And the answer is probably no.
Probably no. Yeah. I mean, there's an element of something, and I don't believe it's the Crusaders' fault. They just take what's in front of them in terms of the rules of the game that are today, and they play to that. As the fact is that they know just dumb making mistakes in your own half, so they don't play the game in their own half. And I mean, Nocturnal talking about Auckland when they play, it's just like, yeah. I mean, like the thing was that that late '80s, early '90s that Auckland dominated, and it was actually entertaining rugby when you had the likes of Fitzy, Zinni, JK, and the likes, and the way razzle dazzle that they did was just different to the metronomic way that the Crusaders play.
One thing I will say about what the Crusaders have put together, I know back when Auckland were dominant, it's probably fair to say that Auckland really and truthfully only had to get up for 3 really big games. Usually it was Canterbury, Wellington, Otago. They probably had and probably Waikato. I beg your pardon.
And then you'd only play, say, 2 of those guys
and you'd only
a year, and you might get a surprise one that would lift their game for their Ranfurly Shield game. Yeah. You'd have that for 60 minutes.
But they were never quite good enough. There was also that train of thought, the All Blacks, after they won the World Cup in 2015. If you remember, they were playing this style of rugby that looked like it was from another planet. Everybody was saying, but that only lasted 2 years, and basically by the time we got to mid 2018, there were a few chinks in their armour. Coaches had sort of worked out maybe strategies how to play them. The All Blacks looked like they had almost got a little bit too smart for their own good with the 2-man playmaker type thing go on. So, I can actually see a little bit of a change happening, Ashwin, with the Crusaders, because they're not. When Auckland were dominant, boy, they were clearly when they were
different
good,
play.
they were 20 points better than anybody. What I'm basically seeing teams who have played the Crusaders, the Highlanders with a little bit of luck and maybe a referee with a couple of decisions here or there could have actually had 2 victories over the Crusaders this year, and they may have done it with a specific type game plan. So I think it's up to everybody else to take a leaf out of that game plan, in the same way that the All Blacks have been knocked over on 2 or 3 occasions in the last couple of years, and that's the key, is to come up with a strategy. But on saying that, there are times I watch these games, and with some of the officiating, we are seeing some of it. It's an absolute lottery.
Yeah, look, I mean, I just let's give some the wooden spooners, likely wooden spooners, a bit of props here. One of the things you got to like with the Canes is that you look at your Ardi and you look at your Amuas, the Karifis, even though he's a penalty machine, but they make meters. They find gaps, they break gaps, and they go forward. They're dynamic, and that's a frustrating thing as a Blues player when you know that you've got that capability in a squad that doesn't achieve that. So that Canes team is playing to a level which, as you say, a couple of bounces of the ball here, and even against the Blues, they could have easily won both those games as well.
Oh, very much. They're not. There's not an Italy in this competition.
No.
There's not a walk up and let's take 5 points.
Let's put our second 15 on. You can't put your second 15 on, that's for sure.
Now, Simon, you say, New Zealand Rugby has a serious problem with not activating its fans. Absolutely, It does.
100%.
An example of this is a spreadsheet I've been putting together.
Let's look at your spreadsheet that you've been putting together,
which looks at the attendance of Super Rugby this year, and has a look at it compared to to previous years. And essentially what you can see, I mean, everyone was raving about the size of the crowds last year after lockdown, but the average in 2019 for the Blues was just over 15,000. They're now just over 17,000, well down on the 34,000 they got last year per game. The Chiefs, again, were at 13, jumped a little bit to 16, back down to 13. The Crusaders didn't like to give out crowd numbers. They, but again, at 13,000, I don't think we can say that they're doing great. Highlanders back down to pre-COVID level, and the Hurricanes, well, below pre-COVID level, looking at their numbers. So, yes, there was all this buzz or all this publicity last year about how record attendances for Super Rugby Aotearoa, and it was the answer to everything. Sorry, guys, no, it's not.
I'll tell you what, if anything, it's the reverse effect. I mean, even for us, it's like, well, it's getting boring watching us beat up each other.
Guys, I also think we're actually right on the cusp of a recession as well. And I actually think money is genuinely
getting tighter,
starting to bite and tighter. I mean, to say last year, I think there was a little bit of money in everybody's pockets. People were basically excited to be unleashed. And I think everybody took the opportunity. And of course, those first few rounds were fantastic and everybody was just so into it. All of a sudden, we were playing live sport in this country. All of a sudden, listen, things have plateaued out a heck of a lot. And I think genuinely, I think people are taking the option of, look, and if you're already paying your Sky subscription, I mean, to say, are you really going to fork out another? Take your family along, it's going to cost you $100. Probably not.
Now, the other side of this also is to do with that Mark Reason article that you forwarded around, Stephen, which basically says, look, I found it a bit amusing that he started his article by saying that a cabal of pompous, aging men called World Rugby. And I'm looking at him going, wow, there's a pot calling the kettle black. He's not exactly the youngest guy in the world, is he? And he's definitely part of a cabal of journalists. But anyway, aside from that, he makes some good points here. They keep tinkering with the laws. They encourage the players to talk back to the referee. The next step on that has been this captain's challenge, which Scott Barrett has come out and said he disagrees with. He thinks, look, there's already a TMO and 3 referees watching it. Why do you need an extra person to slow the game down with a review? So, look, at the moment, all of the discussion every weekend seems to be about the referees, not about the game. And that's a bad place for the sport to be in. Go on, Ashwin.
I think I totally agree with you. Apart from this weekend, I thought this weekend we didn't talk about the referees' decisions as much as we have in the past.
Look, the biggest margin this weekend was 3 points, right? These are, you can't get more exciting than the 4 games we had this weekend. Really, that was the perfect round of Super Rugby. So if we were moaning about the referee after that, heaven help us. To be honest, but it is usually the topic of conversation. Why? And even he gets the laws wrong in his article, which I find amusing when he blamed but he makes a good point. Yeah, commentators who don't know the laws shouldn't be criticising the referee. And
we've talked about that with the Sky commentators, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And that basically, yeah. Look, we need to simplify the game. We need to tell players to shut up. And I would still keep the TMO. I know he wouldn't. You got to have the TMO. I think you've got to keep the TMO.
It's just part of modern day sport now, effectively.
But I do agree with him that the players shouldn't be allowed to talk to the referee. And that.
So you don't think the captain's challenge?
Sorry.
You don't agree with the captain's challenge? Is that when you say they shouldn't be talking to the referee?
I'm not because of captain's challenge. I'm more about the chat back, the constant chat back from all different players.
Oh yeah, but that's for the referee to take in hand. There is it's actually quite clear that the only person that's supposed to be talking to the referee is the captain.
Well, no, actually, that's only convention. The law says
Oh,
no.
well, okay,
But to
well,
me,
okay, convention or whatever, but that's what it is, you know.
Yeah, I think Paul, you might have mentioned there's a couple of processes that could be easily fixed. We saw that try that one of the props scored, and then they went back and had a look and found there was a knock on about 6 phases back. I can't see why the TMO couldn't have got in the director's ear. Hey, just want to have a look. Just want to have a look at that in the ear. If something eventuates out of this, I can go straight to the referee's ear and say, "Hey, there was a knock on." Go straight back to it. The game does not stop. Okay, you lose that time in terms of advantage. So there's little processes that can change. I hate the goal line dropout personally, because I think if you've been good enough to make yardage up the field to create a situation where you've got a 5 metre scrum and you've got the powerful pack, man, that advantage gets taken away from you.
Steve, the goal line dropout is something that fixed something that wasn't broken, right? That wasn't part of our game that wasn't broken. Why did we need a goal line dropout for?
I know.
That doesn't make any sense. Why would you change a law that isn't actually defective?
Here's a real stupid idea. Just basically define and tweak what you've already actually got in to make it a little bit more.
Introduce something new.
Don't introduce something new on top of other stuff that you haven't sorted out already.
Yep.
It's to me it's just nuts. I want to chuck another one at you as well, guys. Something that does my head in.
What does your head in?
Is basically when somebody is held up, and immediately you've got 2 opposition players holding the player up, and then he goes to the ground on his knees. Initially, I reckon it's a maul. Once you've got him up in the air and he can't find his way to the ground, to me that's a maul.
It's a maul. 100% agreed. 100% agreed. You should not be given an opportunity to get your knee to ground or to wriggle around and get some part of your body down to ground so you can say, "Oh, it's a ruck now." No way. It is a maul. The defensive team have earned the credit of calling it a maul. It's a maul, and it shouldn't be. It's a collapsed maul now, not a tackle. Hey, just coming back to that incident that you were talking about, where the TMO could have, done a check on the side with the director. Let's face it, 99% of the people that were watching that game when that high ball went up and McKenzie and whoever went around, we all were thinking, was there a knock on there?
Yeah.
So if we're thinking that, why wouldn't the TMO go and have a look at it? And the other issue that I have is the fact is that it was 7 phases or more that went back. That's about over 2 minutes worth of rugby that they went back. That 2 minutes worth of rugby isn't put back on the clock. So where does that 2 minutes of rugby disappear to? Never happened. So now an 80-minute game is becoming a 78-minute game. You see what I mean? Right?
Yeah,
you can't just take time out of the game like that.
But the players are running around in that time, so they are getting fatigued.
Oh no, but that's game time. That's for the team. Let's say that's behind. They're missing out on to actually try and score points at the end as well.
Yeah.
So
as for foul play that was missed, well, we had a process to look out for that, and that process was you got cited at the end of the game. Okay, it may not wash with a lot of people. Oh, that's foul play, and it looked horrible. But to keep the game moving and rolling on, whoever the person who caused the infraction, they'll get their comeuppance.
You hope.
Yeah.
We need to. We need to keep the game moving. But I think we've all agreed that the TMO should be reviewing things as game plays, and then stop the game if there's something to go back for. We shouldn't. Yeah, that's absolutely. Now that comes down to technology. We had it during that Rugby World Cup. If you remember, they had the Hawkeye thing, and the referees were doing things on the fly, and that worked really well. But that Hawkeye technology is not cheap, and I guess it come. There is a there is a costing. Edward Boyd Tameti says that the ref should really pack the scrum more quickly. Absolutely. The problem is that all the props take a knee, going, "Oh, I'm injured," when they're not really, and they all fake it to get a break and get a breather and bring the water on, which is so. Yeah, so to me, it's.
But that's where we talked about years ago.
They can't force players to play if they say they're hurt.
I don't know what happened. Is years ago they talked about the fact is that the referee could say, "Okay, if you're injured, you're off, get another player on," and that seemed to just disappear as well. And it's just like, "Yep, you're sorry, you got a problem with your knee. Oh, you get off the field and get another guy on then." No, you water boys, you get off. I'm not having it.
Yep.
Oh, look, they might get it wrong every now and then. They're going to, but at the end of the day, they're not going to get it wrong most of the time because we know, as you say, it's a drinks break. It's a Powerade drinks break.
Yep. So that's a referee can free kick for a fake injury. Yeah, the problem is you can't free kick a team for a fake injury because how is a referee supposed to judge what is a fake and what's not a fake injury?
He goes gut. He goes with the gut. He goes with the gut with other calls.
Well, okay, but I think that's dangerous territory for that one.
Oh no, I think you got to give them a little bit of credit. I think they've got a good feel for, especially at that level, they've got a good feel for. Oh yeah, that's a serious injury, or no, that guy just needs to take a concrete pill.
Oh, look, I mean, serious injuries, yeah, but there's some even so, I still think them judging whether.
Well, then we're gonna have that slow game.
Well, no, I agree with the other one of like, if you take a knee, you're off the pitch. Off you go. Then you quickly stop that taking a knee.
Yep.
So we had a couple of captains. We had a couple of golden points at the weekend. So I was going to bring up a section of the stand-up interview that the Chiefs did today for us to have a listen to.
Golden point too.
Fan when we win it, yes.
Yeah, that's what we heard out of the Highlanders too.
Yeah.
The opposite. So
Yeah.
down the line though, is it something that you do like the way it is now, or can it be tweaked, or
Still quite new for us, I think, and having 2 games do that on the weekend, I think everyone's probably thinking about it a little bit more than we had done previously. But again, when you win and you do well, you're probably a fan of it. But we probably would like to have won it before the 80-minute mark and take that out of the equation.
So Brad wasn't lying when there was actually no plan around the.
We haven't specifically gone through the golden point scenario, but we do go through a drop goal scenario during the year. So it's basically just it's still that same. There is our plan, but we haven't labelled it golden point plan. So, but again, even towards the end of the game, Damien, we set up well enough to get a drop goal. To finish it there, but there's a time there, sort of 5 minutes after the full time, where we have 5 minutes to stand on the field and have a plan there. So probably why we wasn't on the field at that stage. So maybe he missed out on it.
We don't have a golden point plan. Oh my God! Sorry, but how can you not have run that scenario through and decided what to do? We used the 5 minutes between the end of the game and extra time to come up with our plan. So when everyone's tired and wanting to get drinks and wanting to get massages, they're coming up with a plan. Oh my word! No, this is so wrong to me. Am I freaking out for the wrong? To me, it's a scenario that you should have run through. You should know what you want to do. You want to kick off, and if you can't kick off, you want to play with the wind at your back. Those sort of things. It's not.
You might want to drop James Blackwell a text or something.
But to say they haven't even run through the scenario, the Crusaders, Scott Barrett admitted they hadn't really done it until the night before when they saw one and thought, "Oh shit, we better plan for this." And so, hey, presto, they were ready the next day.
Classic Crusaders, eh?
Really weren't.
Look, I mean, I don't know. I personally, I'm sort of thinking, I'm just looking. I don't like golden point anyway. I think it's a lottery, and when you look at the Chiefs win the penalty that they got to win the game. Well, the penalty was wrong anyway, so they got a golden point victory with the an incorrect referee's decision. So
Yep.
there's
You
a
know-
load of bollocks to me. Golden point.
You know,
I like golden tries, maybe.
You know, the crazy thing about the Hurricanes game is Blackwell is given the option of which way to go. They've also got the guy who's got the biggest boot in either side in Geordie Barrett. So to me it just made absolutely no sense to not just the decision they made in terms of the toss, but also the decision to use a rookie halfback to clear. But that's one of the Crusaders' strengths.
And you got the big boot of Geordie Barrett at the back. And look, it's interesting because David Hill, actually, David Hill was the coach, wasn't it? The assistant coach. Yeah. He talked about the fact that it should have been won in extra time. If a game should have been won, in normal time, if a game should have been won in normal time, that was that Canes Crusaders game. Why didn't we chastise the Blues mercilessly when they don't take 3, right? They had a penalty on halfway, right in the middle of the field, and they kicked for the corner, and the 3 points would have taken them to 10. And it's like just moments before he tried one for 63 meters out. What logic are they using to go to the corner? There was
I think generally the coaches go, we don't want to go to extra time. We want to win it during normal time, whatever the game. Now, look, and yes, absolutely, you shouldn't be leaving it up to that point, right? It shouldn't be that close. A bit like you shouldn't be leaving it up to referee decisions to decide a game at the end of a game, right? Yep. You shouldn't. They're going to make mistakes, like someone's hands going past the ball, coming back and getting it. Now, so look, it's going to happen. So you want to make sure you're 2 scores ahead at that point, right? That's the whole. But so he's right in that point. But this idea that you don't even run through the scenario, to me, is just nuts. Now, I'm not anti-golden points. You're quite right. It is a bit of a lottery. I agree. I like this point. I mean, Simon reckons that the losing team from golden points should still get 2 points as though it was a draw. I can get that.
I don't mind that idea. I also like Nocturnal's idea of the try,
which is what they're doing in Australia. Yeah, that's so in Australia it's not golden point because they're too defensive. By saying you still get 2 points whether you win or lose in extra time, removes the whole defensive piece out of it, saying we don't want to concede because you can only gain points. You're not going to lose points, which is why. So from that point of view, I like it as it encourages positive play. Stephen, you weren't so sure.
No.
I still think a draw is a valid result.
Yeah. I go along with it. I could do it. I hate a draw more than golden points. Well, yeah, it's just one of those things. If it's a draw, it's a draw.
Yeah, that's what it is. Suck it, boys.
I'm not anti-draws. I don't mind a draw, but I'm also not anti. I'm fairly ambivalent either way, personally.
Or do we give the result to say somebody who scored the most tries?
Got the or actually boundary count back.
Exactly. Kick it over the sideline the most.
Who had the most goal line dropouts?
So look, I'd rather have extra time and a golden point than have the side that scores most tries if it's a draw or something like that. Personally,
last try wins. We all know last try always wins.
Oh dear. Let's make the 79 minutes immaterial. It all comes down to who scored the last try.
Lunchtime, man. It's lunchtime. Lunchtime rules.
Cool. Those are kind of the points I wanted to cover this week. Any final ones from you guys? I mean, Ashwin, you mentioned you want to talk about Silver Lake. Anything particular?
I just sort of think, look, it's funny because people are saying, we have to know more about the details. It's like there is no other option out there. There is nobody else that is going to offer nearly $500 million to New Zealand rugby. if without that money, all we're going to do is see more players going overseas. They're going to see there isn't going to be the opportunity. Although we talk about how rubbish the NZRFU are at marketing and that sort of thing, the reality is that without that money, there's absolutely no chance of doing any decent marketing or anything. Look, at the end of the day, that money is what the game needs. If they don't do it right, it'll turn pear-shaped. But that's the shot in the arm that the game needs in this country. That's it. When people go, oh, the Silver Lake will have too much of a say, it's just like, well, no, they won't, because they're only getting 15%. When you look at it, they're getting 2 seats out of a 7-seat board. So at the end of the day, they've only got 2 voices amongst it all.
I was going to say, with the current crowd, I'm more than happy for them to have a bigger say.
Absolutely. They might actually bring some bloody business now to the table to actually get, at the end of the day, there's still huge potential in New Zealand rugby that's been, wasted.
Mm-hmm.
So, to bring in business ability, these guys aren't just randomly picking New Zealand rugby to invest $500 million in. They invest in other sports as well. So they can bring that expertise to the table as well. So, the Rugby Players Association, from my understanding, I haven't looked into it in depth. Maybe, Steve, you might have understand it better, but they're upset because their percentage level is going to come down. But the reality is they're still going to get more money than they're getting today because there's more money in the pot. If
there's more money in the pot.
But there is more money in the pot. If they go ahead with the $450 million deal, there's more money in the pot.
Well, no, but that's not income. So that's a capital investment. So it's they get 33% of the income, not of the. So
okay. Paul. They're going to get $450 million, right? Okay, that's going to end up in their bank account. Guess what? They're going to make interest alone. That's giving them more income coming in. The interest alone on that money is going to do that. They're going to invest that money to actually not just in rugby, but outside of rugby to give them income streams, which means that there's going to be more income coming in. If they're not if that doesn't happen, they've effed up.
Well, that's my concern is they will F up. Basically. Anyway,
but they're going to F up without it.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. They're going to F up without it as well. Yes.
It's basic business. That's how you grow your business.
Using though from I think it was Fitzpatrick was or one of the guys was like Silver Lake are good at hiring people. I'm like, what? Hang on. So that's the reason for taking the cash is because they'll hire good people. Why can't New Zealand Rugby hire people to grow the game then?
Because they suck at it. They suck at it. Look at who they hire and look at who they put in. Just going back to, I'm sorry, I'm going to back the truck up here a little bit. Beep, beep, beep. One thing why were the Bulls so successful? Because they took a guy called Michael Jordan and they marketed the hell out of him. And they also let him market the hell out of himself, right? You think about the Crusaders. Richie, go for gold, mate. Use the brand that you've created with the game that you've created and go for gold. Because guess what? Builds him. It builds the brand of rugby, and those people that are devoted Richie fans flock through those gates, even if they've got a Sky subscription.
Yep. No, agreed.
Right. So the same thing applies to the Silver Lake deal. Look, at the end of the day, it's going to bring in expertise that they just basically suck at, and it's giving them the opportunity to grow the game. You're not going. As Aaron says, interest rate's only 0.5 at the bank. You're not investing in the bank. You're 80 years old if you're investing in the bank because you don't want to lose your money.
I was about to say there's more layers to this story than a treaty settlement, guys.
Well, what do you know? What do you know, Steve? I mean, I haven't got all the details, so I might be missing a trick here.
Oh, listen, I think Paul, we spoke about it last week with when Boa Arthur was on the show. I'm sort of a little bit like yourself in this climate, man. Take the money,
take them,
and
money in the bag.
Run. Yeah, money in the bag. Yeah.
Take the money and the bag.
We'll worry about the consequences later.
Exactly.
Okay. Anyway, so moving on then. As I say, we've discussed for the past 2 weeks. I don't think anything extra new to say, but we just got a new person's input in our week. He hasn't been on the last couple of weeks. Simon Hughes asks, what do you think about Quade Cooper's idea of the Super Rugby teams in Australia and New Zealand joining the Japanese league? And I think the response to that one is, we do think that Japan should be part of Super Rugby, absolutely, because we need their economy, we need their money. So yes, absolutely, Japan should be part of Super Rugby in some form.
I think he's saying, but he's flipping that, isn't he? Is he flipping it? Instead of saying, we go join their league, they're not joining us?
Fine. But either way, it's still a bigger market with more money. Yeah,
more money.
Not?
Yep.
But
what are you giving away, Paul? You're getting them more money, but what are you giving away?
It's very different. Very different. I'm not... The Silver Lake one, you're saying, I'll have this cash now, but you can have income for life. And that to me is where the problem is a different prospect. Anyway, we're not going back down that route. The Lions, as we've been on air, the Lions coaching team has been announced.
Right. I was thinking Detroit for some reason.
GT as assistant coach. Gregor Townsend will be assistant coach. Robbie Gin and tonic, absolutely, that's what I want. Robert McBride as the forwards coach, who's ex-Wales, current Munster. Steve Tandy is defence coach, so that's Gregor Townsend and Steve Tandy, both from Scotland. And then Neil Jenkins as the kicking coach. People who were down to go or rumoured down to go but pulled out included Farrell as defence coach, but he's decided to stay with Ireland. And Steve Borthwick was going to be the forwards coach, but he has decided to stay with Leicester Tigers and not take part of it. So, what do you think about that?
I was going to say, guys, I can never understand the role of a kicking coach. Are you telling me that guys who started the game as youngsters, went through secondary school levels, went through rep teams into professional rugby, have all of a sudden forgotten how to kick a rugby ball?
What's Neil Jenkins going to show them that they haven't seen already, or they don't talk amongst themselves in the team already? I'll give you one exception though, Steve. When the All Blacks brought in Mick Byrne, I thought that as a kicking coach, different because he came from that AFL background. We know that they've got a slightly different style of kicking and obviously getting extra distance and all that sort of thing. But generally speaking, somebody who's lived the game of rugby and then is brought, like a Neil Jenkins, and then brought in as a kicking coach, what is he going to tell the players differently that they don't already know from the game of rugby? Because he's from a rugby background. I don't get it. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
Neil Jenkins is one of the all-time best kickers in the game. Now his all-round game, you can, but
shots at goal, you're talking.
Goal, shots at goal. Yeah.
Neil Jenkins was never a banana kicker, right? He never did anything like they do these days, where when they're kicking shots at goal, they go inside out, because they actually, when a right-footed goal kicker is actually kicking for the close post and then it swings back around towards the far post, that sort of stuff. Neil Jenkins never did that stuff like that.
He was a very good post kicker. Oh, goodbye, Stephen. He's been a specialist kicking coach since he gave up the game. Look, is he going to totally remodel Johnny Sexton's kicking? No. Is he a guy that can help him come through then with little technical points and just help with his confidence and stuff? Yeah, absolutely. So will he make a massive difference? I don't think so. Is there any danger in having him there? No, I don't think there's any danger either.
I think the bigger talking point, to be honest, is like the likes of a Farrell basically snubbing the Lions. I mean, I would have thought that's the sort of like, not quite. It's a bit of a pinnacle. Maybe not as much as taking your team, the national team, to the World Cup and winning that, but taking a Lions team away that travels every 4 years and being one of the coaching staff is sort of quite, that's an accolade.
Oh, it's massive, and he's done it. He did it last year, the last tour. Now, with COVID and with all the restrictions that go around that, I don't know exactly why they've pulled out, but I can understand why people would pull out in the current climate. There, somebody who says that Farrell's contract with Ireland and they are planning on touring the Pacific Islands. But even so, his assistant coach can look after it, just like the Welsh assistant coaches look after it when Warren Gatland was away.
I was just going to say most tours, Alliance tours, there's usually a head coach here or there, or coach out of one of the national structures that comes in and joins the Lions. So it's not it happens all the time. And
So that's Gregor Townsend and Steve Tandy, two of the main coaches from Scotland, is an interesting one. That they historically haven't had much ever since Geach hasn't been going. They've basically not been any McGeechan, yeah. Ever since he stopped going, Scotland really haven't had representation on the coaching group. So having two out of the five coaches being from Scotland is going to be interesting. And will we see more Scottish players in the touring party? Nobody from England, nobody from Scotland, from Ireland. Rob McBride is Munster coach, but was Welsh coach before that. So interesting that neither of those two will have a voice in the coaching setup. So yes, I think we might see an all-time low in the number of England players go this time around.
This tour is starting to become a real unknown. Like if you go pre-COVID, I was actually quite confident that the Lions would be way too strong for the Springboks, even with the World Cup win under their belt. But the fact that the Springboks haven't played a game since the World Cup final, the Lions won't. England isn't. Well, basically, discounting Italy, England was the wooden spooners for the Five Nations this year, and I think it's all of a sudden become a real unknown what it's gonna deliver.
Yeah, totally. I think you're right. There's lots of unknowns around this one, and especially look. One of the things Warren Gatland talked about ahead of the New Zealand tour was making sure he had a bunch of coaches around him who he knew. Right, I think he had one new coach. All the rest of the coaches had been on Lions tour with him before. This time around, I think Neil Jenkins is probably the only one that's been on the Lions tour with him, who's the kicking coach, so the least influential. He did work with Rob McBride as well while he was at Wales, but I don't believe he's ever worked with Steve Tandy or Gregor Townsend. So it's, again, how quickly will they get up to speed? How much are they going to be on the same page as to how to coach a team, how to select a team? There's lots of unknowns in this.
How far away is the tour?
Sorry?
How far away is the tour?
Oh, well, it'll be July, August.
This year. So it's it's months away, basically.
Oh, it's close. Yes. At the same time as New Zealand, we're playing Italy, which could be a tester.
I hope that's not part of my season ticket.
Absolutely, it is.
It is.
What, they're playing at Eden Park?
I think they're playing two tests against Italy.
Oh, so that means that one will be most likely at Eden Park.
I can't remember who the third test is against. So if anyone in the live chat can remember who the All Blacks are playing this summer, or winter, sorry, July. See, I'm a Northern Hemisphere person. I think July is being summer. Let's hope World War III won't stop it from happening. Yes. Fiji, there we go. So New Zealand are playing two games against Italy and one against Fiji in the July window.
I was about to say, Paul, the All Blacks play Italy on 3 occasions this year. The first test Saturday the 3rd of July 2021, Saturday July 10th 2021. So wonderful opportunity for the All Black coaches to try a whole lot of young guys.
Oh, are you not taking the Italians seriously? Are you dissing the Italians?
I listen. I'd probably back a few Mitre 10 Cup sides to knock them over. To be brutally honest, Paul.
Dear. Now, when is the Rugby Championship announced? Who knows? I'm sorry, but yeah, good luck. Look, who knows with COVID as to when it's going to get announced. And even if it does get announced, will it stay that way? Again, who knows? So,
help. Yeah, we've just talked about today. One of the things we talked about today is how piss poor the NZRFU are at marketing, right? So I've just been to the All Blacks website. They haven't got the 2021 fixtures there.
well, with COVID, we don't know yet, do we?
Yeah, but they've got the dates. Whether they go ahead or not's irrelevant. You've got the dates for when they're planned at the moment. You stick them up there. And you put a little asterisk, an obelix there, and you say, to be TBC.
New Zealand Rugby does not work like that. New Zealand Rugby goes silent, silent, silent. Here is everything absolutely confirmed. They never like to.
That's why they need Silver Lake.
Exactly. Well, yes. They never like to say, "Hey, we are working on it. This is what this is the current plan." They'll never say that. It's a bit like we knew that the Black Ferns were going to play England in Nelson last year, but they never announced it because the Nelson
CEO leaked it accidentally.
Shush! No, we don't know how. We don't know how we found out. Luckily, he's not there anymore.
That's a cat running out of a bag.
Anyway, thank you, boys. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. Great to catch up with you guys. Don't forget, folks, I'm back at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning with the morning sports briefing. What are you waving your arms around for, Alfred?
Well, Edward's saying you could get Italy to play Waihi. You're the manager there. You can sort that out. You can set that up.
Maybe a midweek game.
Midweek game against Waihi. You boys should take them.
Because Waihi will, at that stage, Waihi will have one of the best coaches in the world as an assistant coach.
Paul.
No, not me. Wayne Smith is going to be assistant coach for Waihi when he's finished in Japan.
I'd back Waihi.
Apparently, the Chiefs might play a midweek game for Italy against Italy. Really? Wow. Okay.
That would be. Look, this is crazy, right? That sort of stuff should happen. That started, should definitely happen.
Could be the Chiefs.
And Fiji should have a warm-up game against one of the Super Rugby teams as well.
Absolutely. That's interesting. Something different.
Totes,
man. Totes.
Anyway, Ashwin, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Stephen, absolute pleasure again. Thank you. And everybody, have a great week. We're back here back here on Thursday, previewing the Super Rugby weekend games. We're back on Sunday at 8 p.m. With a Super Rugby review. I won't be live after the Chiefs games. I'll be at the Chiefs game, so look out for post-match interviews from there. Lots of stuff here on New Zealand Sports Radio. Don't forget, you can become a supporter of New Zealand Sports Radio. Whack on the old link there in the scrolling banner. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.